All right, today we're diving into a story that really blurs the line between a heartbreaking tragedy and, well, pure terror. It's a modern folktale, one that was born from just unimaginable suffering. We're talking about the ghost of Belpur.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of a mother who keeps searching for her children even after she's gone? That one question, man, it's right at the very heart of the legend that haunts this little village of Belpur. The locals will tell you it's a question you can almost feel hanging in the air after the sun goes down.
Now, if you were to visit Belpur during the day, you'd think it was just, a totally normal village. But once night falls, that's when things change. The locals say the whole place just goes quiet, like the air itself is holding its breath. And they talk about a woman, a figure who shows up under this ancient peepal tree, just holding a child and weeping.
But here's the thing. To really get this story, we can't just talk about the ghost. We have to talk about the woman. We have to understand who she was before. Her name was Anjali. And honestly, she was buried alive by cruelty long before her body was ever put in the ground.
You look at what she hoped for versus what she got, and it's just brutal. I mean, she went into this marriage dreaming of a loving family, a real home. But instead, right from the very first week, it was clear she hadn't found a new family. Nope, she'd been given masters. She wasn't a daughter-in-law, she was their slave.
And so the years just ticked by, one after another, and the house stayed quiet, way too quiet, no sound of a child. For her in-laws, that silence wasn't just silence, it was Anjali's fault. It was her failure. And what started as whispers, well, they turned into accusations. And pretty soon, those accusations became her entire identity. That one word, barren, that was the weapon they used against her every single day.
But then, something did change. Something happened that should have been this amazing, joyous moment, a true blessing. But instead, it turned out to be the very thing that sealed her fate.
I mean, for 5 years, 5 long years, she put up with it all. The beatings from her husband, Raghuveer, the constant verbal abuse from his parents. And through all of that pain, for 5 years, she clung to just one single desperate hope.
In those quiet, lonely moments, she must have asked herself 1,000 times, if I could just become a mother, would everything finally change? That was the one thought that got her through. And then, one morning, after all that time, she found out she was pregnant. I can only imagine what that felt like, seeing a real smile on her own face in the mirror for the very first time.
But that hope, it was just shattered, almost instantly. When she told them the news, their reaction was ice cold. They didn't see a mother to be, all they saw was a vessel, a means to an end. Her only job was to give them an heir, and after that, she was completely disposable. And the abuse? It didn't stop. Oh no, it actually got worse.
I mean, can you even imagine? She was still forced to do all the work around the house, but now they were giving her even less food, sometimes just stale bread, sometimes nothing. Her body just started wasting away. A doctor eventually confirmed what was obvious to anyone with eyes. She was dangerously malnourished. He told them flat out, both her and the baby are in danger. And her family? They just didn't care.
Okay, so this is where the story takes its darkest turn. We're at the climax now, the point of no return. And the thing that set it all off, it was so small, so everyday, that it makes what happened next even more horrifying.
It wasn't some huge betrayal. It wasn't some big fight. It was a plate of cold food.
He started screaming at her, accusing her of doing it on purpose, to get back at him. Then came the first slap. Then another. Then he started kicking her. And his parents just stood there. They just watched. Anjali fell to the floor, her hands automatically going to her stomach to protect the baby, begging him to stop, please, for the baby, until her voice just faded away.
And then, in that sudden, awful quiet, her mother-in-law said it. Good, the trouble is over. Just like that. No fear, no regret, just relief. Now, what they did next, it was just so cold, so calculated. They knew they had to avoid the police, avoid questions from the village. So, no funeral, no final rites, nothing. That night, Raghuveer carried her body, her hands still trying to shield her belly, out to a dark field behind the house and just buried her in a shallow, unmarked grave. And then they went inside, ate dinner, and went to sleep.
For the next 3 days, they acted like she never even existed. But here's the thing. You can't just erase a person. You can't bury that much pain and expect it to just stay in the ground.
So to really get what happened next, you need to understand what she became. In the local folklore, there's a specific and frankly terrifying name for a spirit like this. It's called a Garbhavati Atma. It's a spirit born from a double injustice, the murder of a mother and her unborn child. And they're believed to be incredibly powerful, tied to this world by that unbreakable, unfinished bond with their baby.
Her payback. It started small. On the first night, they heard it, the faint sound of a baby crying in the house. Then, villagers started talking about seeing a weeping woman. Then, her father-in-law swore he saw her ghost in the courtyard, rocking a child that wasn't there. The very house that had been her prison was now becoming theirs, and it was filled with the sound of her sorrow. And every single night, the terror just ramped up. Raghuvir and his parents started huddling together in one locked room, terrified. But as they were about to find out, there's no door, no lock, that can keep out a spirit that's looking for justice. On what would be the last night of their lives, a bitter cold wind just swept through that sealed room, and there she was. Anjali's spirit appeared right in front of them, holding an infant in her arms, her hair moving like it was in a storm. But she didn't scream, she didn't threaten them, she just asked them a question. The next morning, all 3 of them were found dead. The villagers were understandably terrified. They called in a spiritual healer, a tantric. They did everything they could think of. They dug up Anjali's body and gave her the proper final rites she never got. They performed rituals to try and bring her spirit peace. But it didn't work. Her grief was just too deep. The wrong that was done to her was too great. The haunting didn't stop.
And that's why, to this very day, this story is just part of Belpur. The locals will tell you her spirit never left. Getting her revenge didn't bring her any peace. She's still there, forever searching, forever trapped by what she lost.
Because at the end of it all, even after death, even after getting her justice, her soul is still asking that one single question, the question that nobody ever answered for her in life, and the one that echoes through the village legend forever. Where is my child?